Show descriptions are very critical for SEO. Well, the thing that you need to know about a show description as you're talking through with your clients is that most show descriptions, we've done hundreds and hundreds of podcast audits and we've built hundreds of shows. And the one thing we always find in a podcast audit, 9 times out of 10, is that they only use about 150, 129 to 150 characters within their show description. And they are missing out on an additional 3,000 plus opportunity to be optimized for search, for Google, and the different platforms. As you explain this to your potential client, how important the show description is, you want to let them know, yes, that the Spotify and Apple will truncate the first 150 words. I think it's 129 on Apple, 149 on Spotify. And so the keyword optimized meatiness of the show description needs to fall within those first 150 characters. However, you really want to optimize the fact that you're actually allowed up to 4,000 characters. We cut it off at 3,500. And this is what the benefit of being in this program is all about. We cut it off in 3,500 because as we launched shows, we started to figure out that it was an arbitrary situation where Apple may or may not actually allow the full 4,000, even though they say that they do. And they would randomly cut it off at around 3,600 or 3,700 for no apparent reason. So we adjusted that to 3,500 so that we would always make sure that our clients' show descriptions weren't cut off. And so you can use up to 4,000. That is factual. You will read that if you Google it, but you need to know that Apple will, in some cases, without any cause, reduce that number down to around 36 or 3,700. So we write them up to 3,500. I'm not going to read through this whole thing, but basically what you can see here is that the main things are the absolute first 150 characters are the meat and potatoes. It's who hosting is, it's what it's about. It's talking about who their target market is. So you can self-identify as a listener if you read this in the initial. But then what we did is we went into and talked about what each episode provides. Entrepreneurs focused on taking the right steps, talking about accounting, legal, tax. These are all keywords that will, if you are searching for a podcast about entrepreneurship, about profit, about cash management, about how to make money in your business, all of these will support the search in that. And then in Educators Among Us, the reason why we showcase this example is that in this case, the majority of the talking about the show was done in this first aspect about few paragraphs, but then we also included the host bio in it, because if you need to fill space, if you're running out of keyword optimized, you don't want to overload in keywords, but you want it to be well read, you want to make sure that you have other things in there that can trigger search. So about the host is a really good way to do that. The other thing that's really good way to do that is if you have high profile guests, so you can put the names of the guests that you're going to be interviewing, high profile guests. And you can also, if you know some of your episode titles that you're going to be talking about, you can use specific episode titles of what you'll be talking about within your show description. The other thing important to know as a podcast manager throughout the duration of the relationship with your client is that you can go back and update these. So this is you being thoughtful, being considerate, thinking through if they're hitting a road bump, if they feel like they're stagnant, they're not being found as much in search as they could be, then you really want to be sure that you can go back and you can edit their show description. You can, if they've had a high profile guest come in a season, if they've gotten some new titles of episodes, just be aware that this is something that can constantly be refreshed so that it can be updated.